The grief that swept across humanity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Earth, the cradle of humankind, became a world in mourning. Yet, in the stillness of their collective sorrow, something began to change. The tears began to dry, replaced by a cold fury that burned through their hearts and minds. What was once disbelief turned into resolve. Humanity would not let this betrayal stand. The losses were too great, the attack too brutal. They would remember each life taken, each home destroyed, and they would make the universe understand that such a violation of peace would never go unpunished. In cities around the globe, memorials were held. The sounds of mourning echoed across every corner of the world. But as the days passed, the grief began to morph. The speeches from leaders, once full of compassion and calls for unity, shifted. They spoke not of healing, but of justice. Of retribution. The quiet determination in their voices resonated across every human soul. The peaceful ideals of the past were now a foundation on which vengeance would be built. The leaders made their message clear: humanity had been wronged, and the price for that wrong would be paid. Behind closed doors, the wheels of war began to turn. Humanity did not speak of it openly, but the preparations were underway. Massive shipyards, once silent in their peacekeeping efforts, buzzed with renewed activity. Vast fleets were assembled, their steel hulls rising from the depths of the oceans, launched into space with a single purpose. The stars would see humanity's power again. New technologies, developed for defense during the peace years, were retooled for offense. Ships that could once only patrol peaceful borders were now armed with weapons capable of annihilating fleets in a single strike. Weapons of mass destruction were crafted, hidden beneath layers of secrecy, waiting to be unleashed. Elite soldiers, once trained for peacekeeping missions, were now reformed into the galaxy's most formidable warriors. Every human in the military was now bound by a singular oath: to strike back, to make the betrayers pay for what they had done. The people of Earth no longer looked to the stars with hope alone, they looked to the stars with a plan, a mission, and a promise. Humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. If the galaxy wanted war, it would see war in its most terrifying form. As the preparations escalated, a final message was sent. Humanity's voice, calm yet unwavering, reached out to those who had betrayed them. The message was simple. We do not seek war, but we will not be subjugated. We are not weak, and we will not be ignored. It was a warning, a promise that humanity's wrath, once ignited, would not be extinguished. The message was clear, but it was met with silence. The betrayers, convinced that their strength was unchallenged, ignored the warning. They believed humanity's thirst for peace was a shield, one that could never be pierced by retaliation. They were wrong. Across the earth, the people stood united. In their grief, they found strength. In their sorrow, they found resolve. Citizens from every corner of the world, from every nation and every culture, swore the same oath: they would fight to avenge the fallen, to protect their loved ones, and to preserve the dignity of humanity. This was no longer just a war for survival, it was a war for honor. And humanity would stand as one. The world was ready. The machines of war, the soldiers, the fleets, all were prepared to unleash hell upon those who had dared to break the peace. Humanity had never been more united, more determined. They would no longer be the weak, idealistic species others thought them to be. They would show the galaxy that they were capable of far more than cooperation. When pushed, humanity could be as ruthless as any other civilization in the galaxy, and they would not hesitate to use their full might to restore justice. The stage was set, and with every passing hour, the storm of humanity's fury grew. The universe would soon see what happened when peace was betrayed. It would see what happened when humanity's wrath was unleashed. And it would not be forgotten. For centuries, the galaxy knew only turmoil. Countless civilizations clashed, each one seeking to dominate or defend, and the space between stars became a battleground for control. But after ages of bitter conflict, a fragile peace emerged, a treaty that spanned the cosmos, promising cooperation and mutual respect. The peace accord was no small achievement. It was humanity who championed the effort, uniting factions that had been mortal enemies. Earth's diplomats worked tirelessly, bridging the divides between civilizations who had never trusted each other, crafting a pact that offered hope. It was a new era, a chance to escape the cycle of violence that had plagued their histories. Through collaboration, they believed, security could flourish, with each species protected and encouraged to thrive. Humanity's idealism was genuine, yet grounded in experience. They had known war, their own history filled with empires rising and falling, battles for freedom, for survival, for justice. This wisdom from Earth's past gave them a cautious optimism. They were no strangers to the devastation conflict brought. The collective memory of centuries of war taught them the value of peace, but also of preparedness. Humanity believed in the strength of alliances, in the possibility of unity, yet they were vigilant. Even with the bonds of peace forming between species, humans knew that not all shared the same perspective. There were whispers, quiet but persistent, that certain factions saw humanity's belief in peace as a sign of weakness, an idealism they could exploit. Some aliens viewed humans as dreamers, fixated on a vision that didn't account for the harshness of reality. Still, humanity clung to their hope, determined to be a stabilizing force within the galaxy. For many, humanity's approach was something to be admired. They were resilient, optimistic, even after experiencing the horrors of war. Others, however, wondered if they had overstepped, if their conviction in the treaty's success had blinded them to hidden dangers. Yet humanity remained steadfast, aware of the risks but undeterred. They wanted peace but were prepared to defend it, knowing all too well that history often repeats for those who do not stand ready. Beneath the surface, tensions lingered, though hidden under diplomatic gestures and civil exchanges. There were species who signed the accord with crossed fingers, alliances that appeared strong but were stretched thin by ancient grudges. Humanity sensed this, but believed the unity could be upheld. They were prepared to defend their peace if it ever came under threat, for Earth's people understood what it meant to face insurmountable odds and to survive. If there was any civilization that could handle the delicate balance of peace and defense, it was humanity. This alliance was precious to them, not out of naivety but out of choice, an active decision to protect the hard-won trust that had taken centuries to build. They hoped the galaxy would change, would see the value in cooperation, and in a future where differences could be celebrated rather than cause for bloodshed. Still, as the galaxy quieted, humanity remained on alert. They knew peace was fragile, held together by trust as thin as starlight, and they were willing to protect it at any cost. The peace humanity had worked so tirelessly to uphold was shattered in a single, brutal moment. An alien faction, one of the wealthiest and most powerful among the Alliance, decided they would no longer honor the treaty. Fueled by arrogance and a belief in their own superiority, they launched an unprovoked, merciless assault. Without warning, Earth and several human colonies came under attack. These worlds had grown accustomed to peace, cities thriving, people unprepared for the horrors they believed they had left behind. The strikes were swift, and they were devastating. In the span of mere hours, once vibrant cities were reduced to smoldering ruins. Whole colonies fell, their defenses shattered before they could even activate. The first response was confusion. Many could scarcely believe it was happening. But as the reports came flooding in, disbelief gave way to horror. Families torn apart, entire neighborhoods leveled. The cost was incomprehensible. Those who survived the initial assaults looked on in numb shock as their homes burned, as the sky turned dark with smoke. Humanity had dreamed of peace, yet in that moment, they were forced to confront the brutal reality that peace, to some, was merely a tool to be discarded at will. As word spread of the devastation, grief transformed into something darker, something fiercer. The people of Earth mourned, but beneath the sorrow was a profound fury. They had extended a hand in friendship, opened their borders, and allowed the galaxy into their homes, and this was the reward. In every human heart, a silent fire ignited. For each life lost, each home reduced to rubble, humanity's spirit hardened. They would remember this betrayal. While humanity reeled, the other members of the Alliance remained strangely silent. Some issued hollow statements of sympathy, meaningless gestures in the face of such devastation. Others stayed silent out of fear or indifference. The betrayal seemed total. Not only had an ally attacked, but those who had stood with humanity in peace were now abandoning them in their darkest hour. The alliance, the very symbol of interstellar unity, was crumbling, and with it, any remaining illusions humanity held about the nature of their so-called allies. Isolated, with their cries for aid unanswered, humanity knew they could only rely on themselves. Their leaders convened, expressions somber, voices calm, the weight of their duty pressing down like lead. They would not lash out in rage, would not give their enemies the satisfaction of seeing them broken. Instead, they waited. They chose, as a people, to steel themselves. For now, the fury that burned in every human soul would be contained. But they would remember, and they would prepare. Humanity's response to the betrayal was as precise as it was devastating. The fleets, once a symbol of peace and cooperation, now became instruments of vengeance. The first strike hit the betraying factions' outer defenses, a sudden and overwhelming attack that shattered their perimeter in moments. There was no warning, no time to prepare. Humanity had studied their enemies for years, and the betrayal had only strengthened their resolve. Every move was calculated, every target carefully chosen. The strikes were not random. Each one was meant to cripple, to destroy, to make an undeniable statement. The factions' homeworlds, once thought untouchable, now burned under humanity's wrath. The force of the assault was unlike anything the betrayers had ever encountered. Humanity's technological advancements, refined over years of peaceful exploration, had transformed their fleets into instruments of unmatched destruction. They deployed weapons of incredible power, capable of reducing entire cities to ash in moments. Plasma cannons, ion disruptors, and gravity bombs rained down with surgical precision. Each weapon was designed not just to destroy, but to send a message. Humanity was no longer the naive, peaceful species they had once been. They were a force to be reckoned with. The betrayers' ships, once powerful and confident, were torn apart by weapons they had never anticipated, weapons they had never thought humans could possess. But it wasn't just brute force that tore at the betrayers' will. Humanity understood warfare on a deeper level, and they used psychological tactics to further dismantle their enemies. On the battlefield, humanity's warriors left behind symbols of their fallen comrades, images of loved ones lost, messages carved into the wreckage of destroyed ships. They sent out coded transmissions, simple but powerful, that reminded the betrayers of their own actions. We do not forget. These messages, haunting in their simplicity, began to erode the morale of the enemy. The betrayers had assumed they were the dominant power in the galaxy, that they could do as they pleased with no repercussions. Now they were faced with a relentless, vengeful enemy, and their confidence began to crumble. The betrayal was not just a tactical mistake, it was a miscalculation of humanity's spirit. The more the enemy tried to push back, the more humanity's resolve strengthened. The psychological pressure was immense. The survivors of each strike could do little but watch as their world crumbled around them, knowing that the human forces were relentless, methodical, and determined. The power of the human will was as much a weapon as their advanced technology. Humanity's warriors did not fight for glory or conquest, they fought for justice, for the memory of the fallen, and for the survival of everything they held dear. The enemy's forces, once formidable, began to collapse. Their fleets scattered in disarray, unable to withstand the coordinated, overwhelming onslaught. Key installations, where they had once controlled vast resources, were obliterated, and their military infrastructure was reduced to rubble. The betrayers had no choice but to retreat, but it was too late. The damage was done, and humanity had made their point clear. The Alliance, watching from the sidelines, was stunned. For years, humanity had been seen as a peaceful presence in the galaxy, a species that valued cooperation over conflict. Now they were witnessing the full force of human wrath, and it left them in awe. The same species that had sought peace with every ounce of their being had now shown that they would not hesitate to unleash their full might when betrayed. There was no question now about humanity's place in the galaxy. They were not to be underestimated, not to be ignored. The galaxy had learned an invaluable lesson. humanity would not stand idly by in the face of injustice. The final strike was a message in itself. A massive, targeted assault on the heart of the betrayer's empire, a blow so powerful that it left no doubt in anyone's mind that humanity had triumphed. Their homeworlds, once symbols of power, now lay in ruins. The betrayers had been crushed, they were broken, and their leaders either destroyed or in hiding. Humanity had not just won, they had sent a message that would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. In the aftermath, the galaxy stood in silence. Humanity had proven that their peace was not a weakness. It was a choice, a hope, but one that was rooted in strength. They had shown that, when pushed to the edge, they would unleash a fury unlike anything the universe had ever seen. The betrayers had been wiped from the stars, and the message had been made clear: peace with humanity was not an option to be taken lightly. They were a force to be respected, a people who would defend their ideals with unrelenting strength. The aftermath of humanity's wrath was a silence that stretched across the galaxy. The betrayals had been met with overwhelming force, and the galaxy had been left reeling from the destruction. Other species within the Alliance, once confident in their strength and superiority, now stood stunned by the sheer power humanity had demonstrated. Some were horrified by the carnage, shocked by the scale of the retaliation. The brutality of the strikes, the speed with which humanity dismantled the betrayer's empire, left many species uncertain of their place in the new order of things. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for destruction, and in doing so, they had awakened something far more formidable than they had anticipated. Others, however, reacted with a deep respect for humanity's stance. Those who had once doubted the human idealism now saw it for what it truly was, a strength grounded in unyielding determination. Humanity's actions were not driven by a thirst for domination but by a commitment to justice, to ensuring that their peace was not taken for granted. The betrayal had left no room for doubt. Humanity's wrath was not simply an emotional reaction, but a cold, calculated response to an affront that could not be ignored. Now, they stood as both peacekeepers and warriors, a reminder to the galaxy that their resolve was not to be trifled with. In the wake of the devastation, humanity sent a clear and powerful message to the galaxy. They remained committed to peace, but peace on their terms. A new code of peace was presented to the Alliance, a set of conditions that made it clear that while humanity would never initiate conflict, they would no longer tolerate the complacency or arrogance of those who sought to exploit their goodwill. The treaty that had once been a hopeful agreement between equals was now redrafted, with humanity's terms at its core. The message was clear: peace would remain the ultimate goal, but any who broke that peace would face the full fury of humanity's might. The galaxy, it seemed, had learned this lesson in the most unrelenting way possible. To honor those who had been lost, humanity established a memorial unlike any other. The fallen, those who had died in the initial attacks and in the defense of Earth's way of life, would never be forgotten. Monuments were erected on Earth and throughout human colonies, each one a reminder of the sacrifice that had been made in the name of justice. The memorials stood not just as tributes to the lost, but as symbols of humanity's commitment to the peace they had fought to restore. A vow was made: their sacrifice had not been in vain. Their death had forged a new peace, one that was built not on weakness, but on mutual respect and an unwavering commitment to justice. The galaxy would never forget what humanity had done. The balance of power had shifted, but humanity had no desire to impose itself as an emperor or conqueror. They were peacekeepers, but now, they were also a formidable force to be reckoned with. The other species, though some remained wary, now viewed Earth with a mixture of admiration and caution. They knew humanity could be both the protector of peace and the enforcer of it when necessary. The lessons of the past were clear: peace could only be maintained if all parties respected it. Humanity had made that clear in the most unforgettable way. In the years that followed, Earth resumed its place as a center of both diplomacy and strength. The scars of the war healed, but the legacy of humanity's actions endured. Peace was no longer an ideal to be hoped for, it was a reality, one fought for, one earned through strength and sacrifice. The other species in the galaxy, now in awe of humanity's unyielding spirit, accepted the new terms of peace. They knew that humanity would protect it, and that the galaxy had better respect the fragile peace they had built. For humanity, the galaxy was no longer a place of naive idealism. It was a realm where peace was earned and maintained, with the unshakable power of those who would fight to defend it. Humanity had not only restored peace, they had rewritten the very terms of it. And with that they had secured their place in the galaxy, forever respected, forever feared, as the protectors of peace on their own uncompromising terms.